Hi everyone, I'm back for my Tuesday vlog, and in this vlog I'm going to be finishing up Angels of America, and then on Thursday I will be talking about the book Close to the Knives. So to start this vlog, I wanted to kind of talk about the very end of chapter 6. It ends with Prior talking straight to the audience, straight into the camera, and he says, quote, "We won't die secret deaths anymore." And another quote he says is, "We will be citizens, the time has come." And I think this is where he kind of makes the connection to the audience. He kind of realizes, or he points out that was a fictional story. Everything that happened was fictional, but the main themes behind it are real. People are dying of AIDS and they're not getting acknowledged, and homosexuals are not seen as citizens. And so he's kind of saying, yeah, that's fictional, but it's actually happening, and the time is now for these people to be acknowledged and to succeed and to have that chance. And so I think this was a perfect ending to this type of show. It allowed him to connect with the audience and kind of bring that sense of reality to it. And it was really nice to kind of get that more personal connection rather than us just watching it happen. He's talking straight to us. So I really liked that ending. So one other thing I wanted to touch on about the end of the show was how in the end we have just about 4 main characters left. We see it with Louis, Prior, Belize, and Hannah, Joe's mom. And it was kind of weird that we see these 4 characters at the very end. I think it was a little unpredictable. I think most of us would have thought that Joe would kind of be a part of those last 4. But I think they chose these characters because they all have a more progressive outlook on the situation and life itself. And then you kind of have Joe, who's more traditional. He's conservative. He belongs in the more middle upper class, and so he doesn't really fit in with their viewpoints of moving forward and changing things and being super progressive. And so I kind of liked how they kind of switched out Joe with his mom. It was super unpredictable. And I think all the 4 characters really were pushing for acknowledgement of the homosexual community, kind of ending the stigma against AIDS and all this stuff. And so I think it was nice to see these 4 still sticking together and that Joe wasn't really part of it just because his views didn't really fit in with the others. Another question I had at the end of the show was, is Hannah, who is Joe's mom, a lesbian? And this is kind of interesting because when Joe came out to her as gay, she completely denied it. She was not about it whatsoever. But then in the show, we kind of question it. In the beginning, she's kind of talking to Prior about how men are, quote, lumpish, and how she doesn't like men in general. Like, she doesn't like them together, but then she thinks about just a man alone, and she's like, they're gross. Like, I don't. And then we also have some background knowledge that her marriage before didn't, like, really work out. Her and Joe's dad definitely had some issues. And now we see her kissing this angel who is obviously a woman. And so now I'm kind of questioning, is she a lesbian? And this I kind of think was good to leave us on this like wondering type of ending. And then we see her in the end standing with all the other homosexuals, and it kind of pushes you to think maybe she is, and she did come out to them as being a lesbian, but she kind of holds back from telling the audience that just to make us think a little bit further into it. And so at the end of the show, I do think that she was, and I think it was a good touch. I think it was something we also didn't see coming, and I think this last episode definitely put in a lot of twists and a lot of different things to kind of think about moving forward. Another thing I wanted to touch on was Harper. She was always kind of a character that intrigued me. She always was a little peculiar and didn't really have a place. And so at the end of the show, we see that she's on a plane off to San Francisco. The sun is shining on her. You can see she's kind of genuinely happy at this point in her life. She kind of shut Joe out completely and moved on from that. But I think Harper kind of represents that homosexuals had this stigma against them. Didn't only affect them, but it also affected their loved ones. Harper was a woman who was married to a gay man. And just because he was so insecure about coming out as gay, it made Harper be tortured just for years. Her life was a mess, and ultimately, she blames it on the fact that Joe never came out as gay. And so I think that's kind of where it comes into the stigma against homosexuals was not just affecting them, it was affecting the people who love them and that whole community. And it was just kind of sad to see that Harper kind of wasted all these years of her life just because Jill was so insecure about being gay. And I think that definitely represents something that happens in real life, and it's sad that it does, but I think it was something that needed to be showed. It was definitely real, and Carper was a good way to put it, and she did end up having a happy ending, so that was nice to see.